some rather big, stunning news first broke by Pro Wrestling Insider. WWE superstar Cesaro is gone from WWE. He's gone. Cesaro is now Claudio again, and he's gone. Let me read the article from PW Insider. WWE star Cesaro has quietly exited WWE after his current contract expired. He last performed for WWE on 2/11. That's February 11th. Because in the rest of the world, we put the date before the month. But anyway. On February 11th, losing to Happy Corbin on an episode of Friday Night SmackDown. We are told the two sides had been in negotiations, but had not come to terms on a new agreement. One source noted that WWE did offer Cesaro an extension on his current deal, but that it was turned down. This would be a case of Cesaro's contract expiring, so there would be no 90-day non-compete. Cesaro has been slated to be at tomorrow's SmackDown taping in Hershey, Pennsylvania, on the day, of course, we're talking on the Thursday, so for Friday SmackDown, but will obviously no longer be there as his deal expired earlier this week. Cesaro, 41, had been with the WWE since 2011 when he dinked. What's wrong with me? I think the stroke is coming, boys and girls and everyone in between. Cesaro, 41, had been with WWE since 2011 when he inked a developmental deal with then WWE Developmental Territory Florida Championship Wrestling. Over the course of his run with the company, Cesaro won the first ever Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal at WrestleMania 30, and had a run with the WWE United States Championship, as well as Raw and SmackDown title runs, tag title runs with Sheamus, Shinsuke Nakamura, and Tyson Kidd. He defeated Seth Rollins at WrestleMania 37 in Tampa last year. So, as a longtime Cesaro fan, I 100% welcome the news of Cesaro finally freeing himself from the Fed and going off and doing his own thing. Now, here's what I find interesting. Here's what I find really, really interesting. Now, we're coming up to WrestleMania season, right? In March, so on and so forth. Now, I'm thinking back. I'm looking this over, and it's like, okay, so Cesaro, this is what the article said. They had been in negotiations, right? He had other reports had come up saying that Cesaro had already given like an extra year, had tacked down an option, a 1-year option on his contract last year. Now, what did WWE do with Cesaro last year? They had him beat Seth Rollins. You remember that kind of push that he got? You remember that? Defeated Seth Rollins. You know, they were leaning hard into the swing, right? You remember that one episode of SmackDown where all they would do was show you, like, you know, tape of Cesaro doing the big swing, and they just you were like, oh shit, they're really leaning into it, right? And then he gets his match with Roman Reigns, because in the meantime you have Daniel Bryan, who's mobilizing. Like, before this, you know, he's like, these are the guys I want to fight with. I want to fight with Cesaro. I want Cesaro to get a push. You remember all of this? And then it ends up with a match with Roman Reigns, which, by the way, his match that he had with Roman Reigns last year in 2021 is probably one of my, it is in my top 3 favorite WWE matches of the year. Just go back and watch it. It is absolutely fantastic. He's amazing. He's really, really something else. So you end up, so you look back at the situation and you're like, look at what they did. They said, look, sign with us again. And look, this is what we'll do. We'll give you a push. You'll get the big WrestleMania win. We'll give you a match with Roman. We'll elevate you. We'll put you in a top spot. I'm convinced. This is what happened. I'm 100% certain. Well, let's say 90%. I wasn't there, but I'm convinced that this was put on the table is what I'm trying to say. That WWE told Cesaro, dude, we got you. We're going to give you all of this. And then he loses to Roman, right? Then what happens? He's just dropped back down. So he's a year later, because we're up to a year. His contract expired this week. The timeline fits. His contract last year, he picks up the extra year, the option for an extra year. He's like, we'll see how this goes. Well, he says right now, it's like, they're doing jack shit with me. They're doing absolute jack shit with me right now. Why would I stay? Our boy's gone. I'd hit the bricks too. Now, we don't know what they offered. We don't know what kind of money. Clearly, he turned down whatever money they were throwing at him. Good for him. Now, the question is, of course, per usual, when these situations come up, what is he going to do? What's next for Cesaro? Claudio at this point. We're back to calling him Claudio, which I'm completely comfortable with. Now, this is first and foremost assuming that he wants to continue in pro wrestling, right? That's always that's the first and foremost thing that we have to wonder. Maybe he's just done. We know of wrestlers who got the love of wrestling sucked out of them by WWE. We know this. Sitting around and catering and doing nothing and not having faith in them. This is a thing that happens, right? But Cesaro, he's been friends with, you all know the up, down, down situation, right? With Xavier Woods and Adam Cole and Tyler Breeze. Look who's gone. And Tyler Breeze is off, he's handling his school. He's got his thing. Adam Cole over in AEW just doing fantastic, right? He's going to be challenging. He's got a world title shot lined up, right? Cesaro's like, what the fuck am I doing? The party's gone. There's nothing really keeping him there. So we can first and foremost ask ourselves, well, is he going to continue in wrestling? I hope that he will. I hope that he will. And, I can't sit down and tell you with a straight face, I hope AEW signs him. I don't, because, like, if there was a dream scenario where, like, there's no roster bloat and there was room for everyone and be like, let's go. Let's just fucking go. Put him in AEW. Have him. But here's what this is where I think Cesaro will shine here. I'm convinced the guy's not an idiot. I'm convinced he managed his money well. He's probably, we know he has side ventures, the coffee and stuff like that. We know that. We know all of that. He's going to be picky about what he can do. This is a guy that the independents are just waiting for him with open arms because he has always been a hardcore wrestling darling. The hardcore fans have always loved Cesaro, have always been 100% behind him. If this guy decides to hit the indies running, he can be booked 2-3 nights every weekend if he wants. Without a shadow of a doubt. He's a marquee attraction. He is a draw wherever he goes from this point on. No matter where he goes. Because it is only in World Wrestling Entertainment does a guy like Cesaro not come across as a star. That's the only place on God's green flat earth that a guy like Cesaro is treated like a mid-carder, like a guy that you can easily turn to and say, sorry man, creative's got nothing for you. Because everywhere else, they're salivating for a guy like him. A true prototype of a professional wrestler, a tough guy, a nice guy from what you understand on top of that. That any locker room would be tripping over themselves to have in with them. But of course, WWE don't realize what they have on their hands. Per usual, right? It's the MO these days. They don't realize what they have going for them. So it's like, all right, we're good. And Cesaro has been waffling for years. I loved the bar run. And because you weren't expected to love it. But he and Sheamus worked fantastically together. Their run as a team was amazing. And that legitimately, for me, is the highlight of his career in WWE. Despite the fact, and it's not as if WWE hadn't created opportunities for Cesaro to get over. It's not as if the audience wasn't ready to cheer for him. Do you remember when he won the first Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal? And he scooped up Paul White and dumped him over the top rope? The place came unglued. But no follow-up, no follow-through. We don't have time for you on the Monday after WrestleMania for you. No. Like, they don't capitalize on that shit. The night that he... wait, no, they did capitalize it because then he dumped Zeb Coulter to become a Paul Heyman guy, and people just like freak the fuck out. But nothing comes out of this shit. He wasn't one of the golden ones. He wasn't one of the selected few. They told him to hit the bricks. Fascinating shit to me. Absolutely fascinating. Look, as much as I think that Cesaro can have, I wouldn't call it a career revival. I wouldn't call it that. A reconnection, let's say, with pro wrestling and with pro wrestling fans. I think it's easy for him to go out there and into the wild indie market, and like I said, get booked everywhere. Every there's promoters already fucking calling them, and you know this. But I can't help but wonder, quite unfortunately to a certain degree, I can't help but wonder, have we missed Cesaro at his peak? Because he, again, and I'm not disparaging, he's 41 years old. One would assume that one's peak, physical peak, is a few years before that. I legitimately think that we missed out on Cesaro at his physical peak in his 30s because WWE had him benching, because they had him in a tag team. They never let him really grow, never let him take off properly. I think the window of peak Claudio was missed because WWE told him to sit down. Definitely not saying that he can't go. I'm definitely not saying, oh, he's washed up, he can't go anymore, he's broken. That's not what I'm saying. But I'll be excited to see what he's doing. I'll be excited to see him wrestle with the shackles off. But somehow, just in my gut, I feel like we've been cheated out of prime Cesaro, of prime Claudio. I really do. And I think that's what bothers me the most. Because it's one thing to sit around here and say, oh, WWE didn't know better, but it pisses me off. Because he is/was one of these generational talents. He is a guy that just comes once every 10 years or so. Where you're just like, this guy is a freak of nature. Strong, fast, athletic. He can do it all. And because Vince thought he talked funny, or I don't know, just that one idiosyncrasy that Vince just gets buried in his mind and then he just never lets go of. We were cheated out of Prime Cesaro, and that fucking pisses me off.